While searching Reddit for interesting stories to read, I came across this post from a near death experiencer who shared what he had seen and perceived in the other side. In one of the comments, they told the OP, original poster, to share his experience in this YouTube show named JeffMara's Podcast. The commenter said Jeff was an insightful interviewer and he treated all his guests with respect. Intrigued by the glowing recommendation, I deep dived into Jeff's library. And when I say library, I mean library. Sometime last year, he started releasing episodes daily. Although Jeff's channel is primarily about NDE experiencers, Jeff's guests also range from UFO experiencers to psychics. Join me as I talk with Jeff and find out more why he started this. And of course, all the interesting guests he's had ever since he started it. Enjoy.
All right. Oh,
It's okay.
Let me hit this.
Yeah.
I'm not used to being the guest
Yeah.
on Zoom. I don't know which buttons to press, right?
Yeah. But yeah, we're recording. Today, we have a special guest as a YouTuber and a podcaster who specializes into talking with people who have actually near-death experiences. And again, it's grown from that to people with experiencers, UFO experiencers, and psychics as well. Jeff, thank you for agreeing to speak with us. Thank you for taking the time also, given the connection issues right now.
We'll have to learn our delay because we'll have to get used to our delay because we're so far apart from each other.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you having me on your show.
Thank you also for agreeing to be our guest. And actually, we want to talk to you because I have a feeling that you have a lot of insight with regards to all the people you've been talking to. Insight with NDEs, insight into the UFO experiences, the life review that I've often heard people say in your podcast. But first, I'd like to ask you, how did it start for you? Because when I went through your feed, I checked that initially it wasn't all about NDEs, and eventually about June last year, you talked to someone with an NDE and experience, and it started from there. Maybe you'd like to tell us the story of how it started for you.
I started it probably last Mayish, and in the beginning, I was happy to get whoever's willing to be my guest, right? Because you're starting from the bottom, and I really wanted to have paranormal guests, but I just couldn't find them, and or people weren't willing to be a guest. So I was getting whoever I could find. And funny enough, back in those days, a lot of my guests were dating coaches.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, hey, maybe this will be pretty cool. Like maybe people are interested in dating and relationships, but it didn't get that much traffic. And honestly, that's not really where I hope to go anyways. And then I finally got my first guest. She's Australian. I think it's Kirsty Salisbury. And after I had her, it's kind of like one grew from another, and it just kept growing from there. And by the way, I want to say one thing is that I have had one Filipino NDE guest. I don't know if you've seen that one or are aware of that.
Not yet. I'll post the link to that. So you really wanted to start with paranormal. What was your interest in that? Why did you want to start with paranormal stuff?
Well, there's a famous radio show here in the US called Coast to Coast AM.
Yeah.
And it's on in my time zone, it's on every night from midnight to 4 a.m. And it's just paranormal topics. And I used to work nights, and I used to get off work 1, 2 in the morning. And on my way home, I'd always listen to that show. And I was really inspired by that. So I wanted my show to be similar to that. I like the idea of NDEs. I've liked that quite from a long time ago. And so that was kind of my, how do you say it? The crack in the door to kind of finally make my way in.
Yes. What particular in NDEs did you have an NDE experience or someone close to you?
No, actually, I have not, and that's the interesting thing is I've never had an NDE. I haven't seen a UFO. So I think it makes me a good host because my podcast isn't about me because I have nothing to share.
Yeah.
And I tell my guests, I kind of say it jokingly, but it's true as I tell them, look, I'm just the sky for you, the star to shine in.
When you say that, it relates so much to me because again, I have the same interest as you, but I a broader interest with regards to aliens. And here in the Philippines, we have elementals, we have, of course, human spirits, and I'm the same. I don't have any abilities, I don't have any gifts, but I feel like people who need a safe space to tell their story, same as what you're doing, is what I'm doing, and I can relate so much to what you're saying because that's how I feel as well. And again, I don't experience any of these things, and makes me a balanced person with regards to the paranormal and the real deal. For you, given the number of people you've talked to and the number of experiences you've heard, how has it changed your belief system in what you believe in?
Well, I fear death less. I I feel pretty sure that the NDEs are real. I think you can never have certainty unless you experience it.
Yes.
But I feel like that it is a real deal. It's something that's really happening. Even like I was out shopping recently and I was out actually house shopping. I was
Yeah.
looking at a house and the realtor was there showing me a house and her husband happened to tag along with her. And he is an emergency room surgeon. And they asked me, what do I do? And I was telling them, what do I do? And the surgeon just happened to say, a young guy his heart stopped on my table and we brought him back to life. And he told me, yeah. And he said he was on the other side or something. So just out of the
Out of the blue.
out of the
Yeah.
blue. So I really believe it's probably happening.
And I'm probably sure that you're seeing the link, the connection between NDEs and UFOs. Have you been seeing that connection with the stories?
Mhm. Yeah, that's right. And because when you leave the body, you can go to, some people call it, you're going to the astral world.
Yeah.
And so and they don't almost even call them aliens anymore. They're calling them non-human intelligences, right? So if you're seeing an angel on the other side, an angel, from what I've learned, is not a human. It's not even an evolution of a human. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
something that's completely different than a human.
Yes.
So an angel could be almost considered an alien. It's a non-human intelligence. Out in the astral, people are saying that they're seeing all kinds of non-human intelligences. I mean, I've even had one guest that she was with God.
Yeah.
And then she said, I guess they told her it's time to go back now. And she thought she was going back to her body. And then all of a sudden she was on a spaceship.
Yeah.
And she was looking around and seeing the gray alien beings. And then they finally told her, you got to go. And then she popped back into her body. But if you watch it, she's a person that you can tell she's not into UFOs.
Yes.
She was, just some regular, I don't know if regular persons are, a regular person is probably not the right label, but, just some average person that had no interest in science fiction UFO stuff. And there she was.
And she experienced it. And we have a lot of those stories as well here in the Philippines, but not NDEs, but mostly people who don't really believe, but they've experienced something they cannot explain. And that's similar to the people you've been talking to.
Right. I was going to say the majority of the people in the Philippines are Catholic, right?
Yes.
You guys would probably enjoy a guest I've had. He's a Catholic priest, Father Nathan Castle.
Okay, writing it down.
And he's still a practicing priest, and you can see him on my channel. He's an awesome guy. And spirits started coming to him in his dreams that were stuck in the afterlife. and needed help. And I guess he has another priest that's a friend of his that can be a medium and talk with the dead. And so
Mm-hmm.
they started together helping the deads meet with the guides and the spirits and cross over into heaven.
Yeah.
So you might find that interesting, as well as I even asked him, does the Catholic Church approve of you doing this? And he said, yeah, they do. So, hey.
Actually, we found out while talking to the people here who've had exorcism experiences. Apparently, the church acknowledges exorcisms. They have smaller groups around the city, or around every city has one. They have an exorcism priest per city that they don't talk about, but it's acknowledged, meaning they they acknowledge the demons and what have you.
Hmm. Oh, wow. I had one guest on as an exorcism guest. He's a famous kind of guy, and he's been on TV a certain amount of time, so he's, I guess, famous in those circles. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was an interesting guy. It didn't do that well on my channel, but I don't think my audience is wide enough yet. The majority of the traffic, the majority of the videos I produce are near death experiences,
Yes.
and it's great and everything. But I really want to get my channel super, super big, and I don't think just doing near death experiences is going to get me there. I need other subjects and other audiences. So perhaps when I develop the audience a little bit more, it would get more traffic.
Yeah, I think you will want to have Sam as a guest.
Oh, Sam
Because
is an exorcist,
yeah,
huh?
no, but actually, again, here in the Philippines, we believe it's in our culture, actually, our belief in elementals. So technically they are spirits. We have tree spirits, water spirits, and all that. And Sam grew up with the ability to see these things. He grew up seeing three elementals. He said that while growing up, he would see lots of people in his house when in fact there were just a few. He would see human spirits as well. And the reason he got in touch with us is because in the past maybe 5 years, he's lost that gift and he wants to get it back up. But growing up, he's seen all sorts of things. From spirits to elementals, and I don't know if he wants to. It's a different audience, but it's a different path from your usual NDEs, of course. The stories you tell.
It makes me wonder, Sam, did you shut it down because you became afraid and now you can't get it back?
I think, or from all of our interviews and my researches as well, um, what I think what had happened is that I was too focused on my career and all the lavish lifestyle that I had while I was working. That apparently, with regards on the psychic abilities, if you are living what
Decadent.
is the term, a decadent lifestyle, you
Okay.
kind of lose touch from the supernatural realm.
Right.
So right after the pandemic started, I decided to quit my job and stayed here in my hometown. It's and since I'm not in the club, I'm not in the no, I'm not in the metro. I kind of am slowly getting it back again, which is good.
I don't want to out you on your lifestyle, but if you're someone who does drugs or alcohol, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You said you're living a decadent lifestyle. So
Yes.
if
Yes.
you may have to go sober,
Yeah.
and that maybe will help you bring those abilities back. I don't even know if you do that or not. I'm just throwing that out there. And if
No,
I'm wrong, if I am wrong, I apologize.
You're not wrong.
you're not. I'm really out there, like really like. I mean, regardless, like even in the our local podcast, I always say the same that I say my truth with regards on what I did in my life. So yeah, you are right. You are spot on and saying that yes, I was drinking, I was doing drugs, I was everything other than because like when I was growing up, like literally the supernatural took my life, the entirety of it. Like literally, like from elementary to high school to college, I was all about the supernatural. And then I started working. and then it kind of take the back burner of my life. So it's like, okay, if I see a ghost, great, right? But like right now, when I started working too much, I'm missing hits. I met an accident before because I didn't want to focus on other abilities.
Let me ask you this. So I don't know about seeing all these elementals and stuff as part of the Catholic religion. Is that something that's cultural in the Philippines?
Yes, it actually is. And actually that's the reason we do this anonymously.
Anonymously, wow.
Yeah. So Filipinos, our guests, all our guests, not, maybe five have agreed to say their names, but all of our guests do it anonymously because again, it's a Catholic country, and we will be shunned by our relatives and our
Wow.
friends for saying this.
Are you yourself anonymous too?
Yes, I'm anonymous. People don't know. I give a fake name. I don't divulge who I am. Because again, people here do not tell us their stories if it's not anonymous.
The Philippines reminds me of India
Mm.
because when I've talked to people in India, the people of India don't like to talk about NDEs as well.
Mm.
So I don't know if it's a religious thing from Hinduism, and the same thing with Catholicism, that they don't want to really be talking about that or not. But I find it interesting.
Actually, Sam has that same dilemma as well because, again, we are brought up Catholic, and sometimes psychics here feel that is this a God-given talent or is it from the devil or from something evil, and they have that dilemma as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's evil. I don't know. Sam's not here to answer, but I wonder if something happened in his life as a child that made him have some kind of connection with the other side. I would assume there would be, but I could be wrong.
From what we've discovered, talking to other people who are sensitive, most of the time it's hereditary. Actually, I remember you mentioned Bigfoot in one of your interviews, and again, we are trying to relate the different things, the cryptids we have here in the Philippines to other parts of the world, and we feel that Bigfoot is an elemental. He is a tree elemental or a forest elemental because we have the way they describe Bigfoot is the way we see the way psychics see our tree spirits. We call it capre. They are big, tall, and hairy beings. So I have a feeling some cryptids there are also elementals. They're nature spirits. Have you heard of this also?
Not in the US. It may be more in Europe, because Europe kind of has more what they call paganism, and they had, there's tree spirits and spirits of the earth and rocks and stuff. And the US, no. I think the US is more of the Bigfoot phenomena. As you mentioned in one of my podcasts, I had a guy named Major Ed Dames, which is a remote viewer, if you know about remote viewings. And he was going to go do some research, but from what he was saying, it appeared that he was saying that Bigfoot is a hologram or a holographic projection from a UFO.
Mm-hmm. We haven't heard of that actually. Jeff, can I ask you? We got to talk with the person who got to communicate with ETs or non-human intelligence, and she said that if I'm not sure if you've heard of this from the people you've talked to, the Greys are supposedly us in the future.
I've heard that.
Okay. Have you heard other things about the other species that, are of interest to you?
Well, I don't know if you know the term starseeds.
Yes.
But a lot of people claim to be starseeds. And basically, in my interpretation of that is, previous to this life, they were incarnated on another planet. And a lot of them are incarnating here this time to help out because this planet's in bad shape. And most of them there's probably about 4 or 5 different systems they come from. You'll see Pleiadians, Arcturians, Lyrans, Syrians. Those are probably the top ones that I know of. I had a guest on named Gosha, and Gosha was telling me that she communicates with, I think, the Pleiadians, and actually, according to her, she communicates with them via chat. I mean, they set up a chat line with her. I asked her, what is that chat program you're working? And she said, she didn't tell me. She said you can find it on the internet, but I've been unable to find it.
Yeah.
But because I want to chat with the Pleiadians.
Yeah.
But according to her, she said that she's a starseed. I don't know, from Pleiadian. I don't remember exactly, but she said that she had maybe she had an NDE or whatever. But when she woke up, her version of going to the other side was like the Matrix. She woke up in some kind of pod over there, and she, became conscious in a pod, and then talked to the people over there, and decided to get back in the pod and come back to Earth. So she's kind of like, here and there at the same time. It was very interesting. The most fascinating thing she told me was that there are background people on this planet.
Yeah, I've heard you mention that.
Have you heard of that term?
Can you expound on that?
According to what they're saying, background people are people that are, I don't know, soulless or whatever, that are on the planet. And it's kind of like a video game. If like you're playing against other players in a video game, and then there's like other just bots randomly in the game too, like computerized bots. And supposedly there's people on this earth that are just computerized bots. She said that we're not evolved enough to even figure out who they are, so don't bother trying. But I had never heard that before till I talked to her. And then she didn't even come. She's not the originator of that idea, because I think she said that before her, Dolores Cannon was talking about that. And I would love to talk to Dolores, but she's deceased.
Yes, actually. She would be an interesting guest to have on. Actually, I was going to ask you, I'm not sure if you want to talk about it openly, but we can cut this out. But you recently interviewed this guy from Slovenia who had it's very different. He had a very different story to tell. I mean, I'll cut this out, but what are your feelings on what?
You don't have to cut it out. It doesn't bother me.
What are your feelings on that?
Well, my thing is this. I can tell you what I can try to translate what I think he's saying, because I was with him more before and after. I never really give my opinion on any of my guests.
Yes.
Because my podcast is not about me. I just present the guests and let the people make their opinion.
Yeah.
So I try to take me out of the equation.
Yeah.
But from what I understanding, he speaks to a woman in the 4th dimension called Sonia. And he's also spoken to aliens before. And his idea, from what I understand, is not a new idea, but basically this whole construct that we live in is all a scam.
Yeah.
And it's controlled by the Orions, another group. He said they're evil, dark beings. They're only energy beings. They don't have bodies, and they eat dark, negative energy. That's their food. And so when we die, we go to the other side, and they trick us whatever way they can, and first do a life review. And so when I mean by trick us, if you're Catholic, maybe they'll appear to you as Jesus, maybe they'll appear to you as an archangel or an angel or a family member or whatever. So they're tricking you, and then they download your experience in the life review, as well as, since you re-experience it again, they get to eat some more of your negative energy.
Yes.
And then they force you back, and the cycle never ends. But in a positive light, in the end, he's saying that the Orions, I guess is the one who set that up, have been defeated all over the cosmos except the Earth, and they're almost defeated here, and they will be defeated soon. So, and we're going to be released from them pretty soon. So And if you look at the numbers on my podcast, the comments, a lot of people did not like that.
Yes.
Did not like that
I saw that
podcast.
also.
But it's okay. You've got to present other ideas sometimes, right?
That's true. And that's what I really like about your podcast and your YouTube page also, and that you let other people with different beliefs come in and talk about it. You don't gatekeep whatever information they have to tell. And actually on Reddit, the reason I found out about you was on Reddit, and people were saying your podcast is a safe space for people to talk about their paranormal experiences, their NDEs, and all of that. And I'm thankful, I'm grateful also for you for doing that, because again, you're giving people a voice, people who haven't had this voice before.
Right. You're exactly right. And that's really what I want it to be. I give my guests dignity. I try to go at it. I mean, it's impossible for anybody to control our mind, because it's part monkey mind, right? It's kind of chatter and monkey all over the place. But I try to focus that every guest is telling me the truth.
Yes.
And I'm not there to debate my guests whether they're telling me the truth or not. My purpose is to let them share their experience, and then, like I said, the audience can decide.
Have you heard of reptilians as well? That they're still here on Earth?
Yes, I've kind of heard of it. I've heard of a lot of, well, I've heard stuff they call, I don't know if they're the same, but the Draconians or Dracos, those are supposedly negative entities. I had a guest named Dr. Turi, is a very famous UFO guy, been around for a long time. He's also like a psychic. You can see him on my podcast, psychic UFO guy. And I think he will tell you that there's like two major factions of good versus evil non-human intelligences out there that are, they're fighting over the earth, and the Dracos are here, and they're causing a lot of havoc on the planet. The Dracos may be the reptilian type beings. Is that the same name you have?
Oh, I haven't encountered people saying the Dracos yet. Not for me. This might be a bit personal, but before you started the podcast, what was your belief system, if I may ask?
I didn't grow up in a religious household. So I really just had a spiritual belief system. My family wasn't religious. I never went to church. Only went to church as if I was at a friend's house and they went to church and I just tagged along, right? And actually, most of the times I went was usually a Catholic church, because in the part of the U.S. I live in, it's predominantly Catholic.
Yeah.
And I just grew up, my mother was she was kind of also kind of what they would call New Age.
Yeah.
Here, New Agey or whatever, and spiritual. And then at some point in my lifetime, in my late teens, I studied for a while something called Raja Yoga, which is, and they call it, or the Brahman Kumaris, which is a type of yoga meditation. And I did that for a while. And then I was within their belief system, and then I kind of didn't agree with it at all after a certain point. And I've studied different things, but I'm not really officially belong to an organized religion.
Yeah.
It would be easy if I would be, because the US is predominantly Christian. And so if I was Christian or Catholic, you would just fit in.
Yeah.
So life would actually be easier if you fit in with everybody, right?
Yeah.
But since I didn't grow up in that world, it's hard for me to be a part of it. My wife will tell you, though, that she believes I'm more Christian than most Christians.
Actually, there are splinter Christian groups here in the Philippines that kind of mirror what most of the psychics are saying, or most of the spiritual people are saying, that you do not need an organized structure to get direct communication with God or the Supreme Being. It's just a straight way. It's a straight call. And that's what most people are saying. And I'm not sure if you're getting that same message from some of your guests who have NDEs as well.
Well, the majority of my guests who encounter Jesus portray Jesus to be this awesome guy that doesn't need you or is not asking you to pray to him. He's like, he's there, he's helping you, he's loving you, he's healing you, he's funny, he's a spiritual master. But like I said, he's not someone that's going to punish you, or he's not someone that's asking for your praise.
Yes. Have you heard some of them, I mean, relating to that, have you heard some of their guests say that there is no hell?
I actually posted one today that said the only reason that you are experiencing hell is because he didn't say why. He just said the reason why people go to hell is because they think they deserve it.
Oh, that's a good insight. That's a nice insight.
But I thought that was very interesting. But I think the consensus of the people would say it's a state of mind. And generally most of the guests that I've had that did go to hell, they called out to Jesus and they immediately got out. So there's my takeaway. If you're listening to this podcast, if you're in hell, as long as you ask God or Jesus, they will help you get out.
Yes.
So you're going to be okay.
Yes. That's a good message for the people in hell listening. We got a guest before because he's a psychic, and he said that again he sees spirits, and he keeps telling me that there is no hell. Earthbound. You're earthbound, and you're dealing with your personal demons. And again, it's another take on it, and I appreciate his take on it. It's very different from the other psychics who we've talked to. Say that again, the difference between heaven and hell.
Yeah, I used to believe that basically hell is on earth. I mean, how you live your life can be hell. I mean, once you leave here, there is no hell. You're going to heaven. Hell is here.
Yeah. And that's a consistent, another thing that they say, that you stay in the earth realm or earthbound because you cannot cleanse, or you cannot accept the sins you've made. With all the synchronicities that you've experienced, do you think that there is a reason why you're doing what you're doing right now?
I kind of do. After doing this, I never would have imagined it would have helped. It helps so many people.
Yes.
And I get people writing to me and commenting, and I keep a list of the comments of people, like just amazing comments that people write. And so I'm definitely in the right place at the right time. I feel like positive things are happening in my life, perhaps due to the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Actually, my follow-up question is, have you tried to possibly get a reading on, because sometimes from the people we've talked to, it's related to your past life or kind of a mission. It's something you keep doing. And have you tried to get a reading on that?
I've been offered by a guest, but I want to stay. I appreciated the offer, but I actually declined on the offer because I want to stay separate even from my guests.
Okay.
I want to be an impartial person from the guests, and I don't want to feel like I owe the guest anything. I help the guests when they come on. Like, if you are my guest and you had a book at the end of the podcast, I'm happy to talk about your book. So I decline.
Yes.
If that makes sense, I just decline. I would like to get a reading. I'd love to get a past life regression. I think that would be pretty cool, especially by someone who's really good. Again, the guy that I posted to today he didn't offer me, but I'm just saying the guy today apparently is a master hypnotherapist, been doing it for, I think, 35 years. He's award-winning. He does that. Not only does he do past lives, he does life between lives.
Mm-hmm.
So it would probably be amazing to get one of those readings done. And, I would love to at least have the certainty.
Yes.
right? To just say, hey, man, I've seen my past life. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm certain that this is real.
Because that's what we've been experiencing with the people we've been talking to, that there's a reason. I mean, there's a reason you agreed to my invitation, and there's a reason that we're talking now, and there's a reason you're talking to all of these people and helping them say their experiences, share their experiences, and the lives you've touched. So I have a feeling that maybe there's a reason. It's connected. It's just me. I'm not a psychic, but I have a feeling it's connected with your past life.
Oh, my past life. It's interesting. I'll tell you a little bit about me. Is I'm a chiropractor, right? Do you know what that is? I don't know if they have
Yes.
them in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So, one of the ways it's easy for me with doing these interviews is each one of these guests is like me being back in the office, and this is one of my patients, and I'm just asking them, okay, your back's hurting. Well, tell me about it. Oh, and because when you're practicing any type of medicine or physical therapy, chiropractor, whatever, you've got to get a history of the patient and what happened to them and how did they get hurt, and before you start treating them, to make sure you're the right person to treat them in the first place, and if they don't have some other problem. So in a way, it's a past life within this life. In a way of saying that. But you honestly as well, yes, maybe there's something in my past life that I'm here. It's been almost overwhelmingly positive doing this. Like I said, more than I could ever imagine.
Have you had guests tell you that maybe you have that ability to connect, meaning being an empath, and being a chiropractor, meaning when you try to, it's technically you're healing people from what they're experiencing. Has anyone told you that? Yeah.
No, actually. No, and I like to kind of remain a little bit of a mystery, and most of my people don't even know I'm a chiropractor.
Yeah.
I like being a mystery, and two, as I probably keep trying to drive home the fact that the podcast is not about me.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing, there's nothing for me to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about the guests, and I think maybe the audience somehow realizes that, and they appreciate that I've talked more about myself here today than I have in over 200 podcasts.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the reason we want to get to know you. I know you're not used to talking about yourself, but for this episode, for our podcast, we want to know more about you, actually, because we want to. I have a feeling sometimes people who listen to you, they also want to. This is just me. I'm not imposing my thoughts on you, but I have a feeling that me as a listener and as a person watching your videos on YouTube, part of me also wants to know more about you, because again, when you talk to people, you really don't tell them about yourself, and that's. I hope you don't mind that some questions might get too personal.
No, they're not personal to me. No one's ever told me that. I feel like, like with most of my guests, I make a friend. It's interesting because most of them, I talk to them once and I never see them again.
Mm-hmm.
But I've made this kind of connection with them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I know at least one, if not more, have actually felt, I think they feel the same way, and even kind of like, okay, whenever you're in my city, let's get together. It's like, and I think also it's probably more than they would care to say, but when for anybody, if you personally expose yourself and tell yourself to somebody, you're going to feel some kind of connection with that person because you've exposed yourself to them, and so but yeah, I don't even think the guests know I'm a chiropractor. Back to your question, they don't know. And when they come on before, my system is that I personally try not to know anything about my guest. I probably do it completely backwards of what you're supposed to be doing, but most of my people are experiencers, and I don't want to know their experience. I even tell them that. They'll start telling me stuff, and I'm like, wait, don't tell me anything. I'm just saying, just tell me enough so I can introduce you to the audience. Like, okay, he had an NDE and he encountered Jesus. That's all I need to know. Because I've done it before. Well, know everything, and it's boring for me.
Yeah.
As well as I feel like it's not that authentic. I mean, I want to,
Yes.
if I'm discovering you as we go, I'm going to be more authentic. And also, I'm going to have probably the same questions as the audience.
Yes. That's a good insight.
It's just that you have to it's not easy though, because you have to pay attention really hard and remember questions as they go, because on my style, I don't, because most of the guests are going to tell me their story. They may tell me their story for 30 minutes and I'll let them tell it for 30 minutes before I ask a question. So you've got to kind of try to remember some things that you're curious about along the way.
You could say I'm kind of talking shop with you, because it's nearly the same thing I do. But for me, whenever something interesting pops out, I need to write it down and remember to ask it after. Because
Right.
Yeah.
Well, since I do it video, I just don't think, well, I'm with the guest and we're looking at each other, and I don't want to interrupt their flow.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just gonna, I don't know, maybe it looks weird, looks rude. I tried it once before. I used to have a clipboard on my lap.
Yeah.
But then I also, when I'm writing, I'm not paying attention.
Me,
you're back
I have
now.
a clipboard,
That's
but I made it ahead of time.
Okay, yes.
Just
You know
so I
what's
have
funny is I've been looking at myself for the last 30 minutes. You finally came back.
So sorry, because of the
It's nice to
connection.
see you. It's so nice to see you again.
Yeah,
And Sam's
know,
back too. That's so great.
I know you're used to having someone talking to someone, because all your videos are side by side.
We're looking at it. If you think of this, if we think of this, we're looking at each other, right? You're looking at me right now. So if I'm looking at you and then going like this,
okay,
right? I lose the connection.
Yeah,
I lose the connection with you.
That's
because
true.
part of the connection is in the eyes.
Yeah,
and we're looking at each other.
That's true.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I hope I didn't get Sam in any trouble, because I didn't want. Now that I know that you're anonymous, you're probably okay. But I was like, if someone in the country found out that you used to drink and do drugs, you might get into trouble. So I was like,
No. I've been sober for like 20 years now.
Oh, that's good. Someone left a comment on a video the other day, and I thought it was great. They said that you cannot spiritually heal until you get sober.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I'm like, I'd rather, I'd rather, like what I said, it's been a part of my life for the longest time. So when I lost it, I kind of like lost a limb in my, in my day-to-day job, my day-to-day living. So I'm like, okay, let me just throw this away. And as well, like I have to be sober for my work, because it doesn't really help me while I'm working.
It's a shame that you guys can't go public.
Yeah.
I mean, what would happen if you guys would go public?
Actually, one story, Sam has a particular story that he encountered a spirit who showed him how she died and how her sister died. And she could connect who killed those two women. And he told that story on the podcast. And of course, it's not really a small town, but he could be found. That's one of the reasons that he wants to stay anonymous as well, because the people who did the crime could get back to him for what he saw.
I mean, maybe you guys, if you went public, you would just blow up really huge. You'd be superstars.
No. We don't want that. We don't. The problem here in our community, like here in the Philippines, unlike in the Western countries, that okay, when a medium or a psychic pass by, that's them. But here in the Philippines, we're always tested, and it gets to a point where were a bit offended already. Like literally, I would walk around like before, when I was still in high school, I was talking to a spirit in public. I just forgot. I forgot that I was looking at and I was talking to a spirit. And then there was a classmate of mine in the high school saw me. And right after that, the next day, I was the talk of the town, and I was the talk of uh, the topic of the conversation in school, where everyone wanted to, test me or either laugh at me. There are people that would even approach me and say, "Can you guess what I'm thinking right now?" Like, I can talk to ghosts, you dickhead. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
There's a difference between that. I cannot read minds.
Right.
I can at times,
Feel.
yeah, but it's different every day.
Well, I think there's a lot of fear, but a lot of people are probably afraid, but they're still really curious and really want to know. And behind the closed doors, a lot of people who would be afraid in public if they would love to talk to you in private.
We kind of built a community for past guests and some people who just want to open up, because again, we found that if we say it anonymously, if we have it anonymous, more people open up and share their
Right.
stories.
Right. And it's probably a heck of a lot easier for you because it is audio. So that it's so easy
Yes.
for people to be anonymous.
Yes.
Every now and then somebody will ask me if they can be on the podcast, but not have video on it. I say, I'm sorry, it's YouTube. I've got to
Yeah.
see you.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. Although I have had one guest, I don't know if you saw, it's a really interesting story of a woman that is a stripper. I don't know if you have
Okay.
strippers there,
Yes.
stripper dancer. And
Yes.
so is a crazy story. Interesting story was that she started to date one of her customers, and the customers had told her that he was single. After a while, it comes out to find out that her husband is not her boyfriend's not single. He's married, and the wife found out about the stripper, and she paid people to kill the stripper.
Wow.
And so we did the whole video. I did the video with her just like we are, but in the
Yeah.
editing, I blurred her out,
Yeah.
and we used a fake name.
She had an NDE. Is that it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, basically, yeah, I guess.
Jeff, just to close this, and again, thank you for talking with us. What other paranormal interests have you been wanting to dive into? You mentioned earlier.
Well, I guess there are more guests I've been trying to get. I've been trying to get this guy, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I had him. I really like his stuff on consciousness and meditation. I've tried some of the bigger NDE guys, Howard Storm and Bruce. I think it's Bruce Grayson, and haven't been able to land those fish. Who else is there? As far as that, other paranormal ideas. That's a good question. Maybe more people on consciousness, more UFO people. I don't know. I guess I don't really even know myself, to tell you honestly, exactly. I guess just certain guests that I want to, some of the bigger, more notorietous. No, well, I don't know if that's the right way to say
Yeah.
that, but bigger public figures, that are out there. I asked Dr. Deepak Chopra. I didn't get a response. I wanted to get Whitley Strieber. We kind of chatted back and forth, but nothing ever became concrete out of that. That would have been a good guest. But on my NDEs, the greatest thing is I find all these undiscovered people.
Yes.
And I really enjoy those too. I've been very lucky to find these people that have never shared their experience. And some of them, if not, quite frankly, a lot of them have been amazing guests.
Yes.
And what's amazing for me is that not only the podcasts help the audience, but sometimes it helps the guests. Like I had this guy, Dr. Graham O'Connor, medical doctor, that I don't know if you've seen that video where
Not yet.
he, I think, would worked with worked in a children's hospital or children's division, and he had a bad week. Some kids died, and a friend of his had died recently, and so he went to the bar and was doing drugs at the bar and died, and came back. But the amazing thing about that is that I haven't spoke to him since that podcast, but I heard him on someone else's podcast recently, and some other doctor, I guess, heard the podcast and sought him out, and now they're going to be doing research together.
Wow. Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool that from my deal, he got
Yeah.
that opportunity.
And it's nice that you connect. It's kind of you're connecting experiences also. For us, it's like when I listen to your some of, I haven't finished all of them, of course, but when I listen to some of your episodes, I see connections with the people we've been talking to, and that's super interesting for me, because it kind of tells you that there is a bigger world out there that we're not seeing, and everything is connected in some way.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And yeah. And I don't know what to say. I just can say you're exactly right. Yeah, we're all kind of connected. I mean, that's even what the NDE people will say. Some of them will say that I'm really, you are me and I am
Yeah.
you. And so
Yeah.
the way I treating you, I'm also treating myself.
Jeff, to close, is there anything that probably a past guest told you that really stuck with you, that you want people to know, or to share to people who have been having trouble or having problems with their lives? Is there something, let's say, cathartic enough that you want to share that you've heard from a past guest?
I get a lot of jewels, not every time, but quite often I get something from a podcast that I'll hear and I'll go, wow, that's pretty cool. I never thought of that. I don't know if there's one thing that overstands everything else, but, for example, a guest once said that, even though I've had an NDE, I'm not a saint. I still come back here and I'm a human, and I still have, make errors.
Yeah.
Another one that I liked the other day that I had, or a week ago or so, she said that I think the way she looked at problems is that this is just a miracle I don't understand yet.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. I really like that confirmation that I had from the podcast yesterday that I actually posted today, that hell, only the people who experience hell are the ones that feel like they deserve to go there. I thought that was pretty fascinating. And as I previously mentioned, when Gosha mentioned background people, I was blown away by that.
That's something we will have to look also into. Jeff, thank you. Thank you for the time.
Yeah,
Sorry for the connection issues.
Hey, it was nice meeting you. Too bad you're anonymous, because I would maybe get you on as my guest. If you know anybody that would ever consider being my guest and don't mind coming out of the
Anonymity,
coming out in the open, I do this every day, so I'm always looking for guests.
Okay.
I'm always just grinding through and trying to get people. And
but yeah, thank you, Jeff.
From one podcaster to another, you understand. It was a pleasure meeting you. I enjoyed spending time.
It's a pleasure meeting you also.
I see you again sometime, and I hope you come out of the podcast closet and become visual to the world.
We're doing a live on Facebook and YouTube this October, but we're wearing masks.
Okay. Well, there you go. You're halfway there.
Yeah, we're halfway there.
Yeah. I have a feeling I think eventually either the people will love you and you'll get a certain number of people in the Philippines that won't care, or you won't care. You'll just go for it.
I hope. Maybe. But thank you. Thank you for that advice. Thanks, Jeff. Nice meeting you. Thank you again.
Nice meeting you. Take care of yourself, brother.
Okay. You too. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again, Jeff, for taking the time out of your busy day to talk with us. Jeff wasn't used to talking about himself, but I really feel it's nice to know the story of the person who seems to have touched a lot of lives with all the videos he's shared with the paranormal community. During the interview, Jeff mentioned a couple of past episodes So I'll post the links in the show note so you get to see what he was talking about. If you are a Paranormal Podcast listener, I suggest you subscribe to his channel as they tackle themes and ideas that are touched upon throughout our episodes as well. A global perspective must be adopted when trying to understand the paranormal. We cannot insist on just seeing everything through a local lens. And that is the reason we seek out different perspectives from different people around the world. If you watch this because you watch Jeff's shows, I've made a playlist of our English episodes in case you want to try some of our episodes as well. We talk with different people with different abilities. We've talked to a light worker in Denmark, a psychic channeler in Amsterdam who sees auras, spirits, and elementals, and other people who have had paranormal experiences. If you've had an NDE experience and you want to share it, please head over to Jeff's show. He would gladly listen and share your story to the NDE community. If you, however, want to keep your anonymity, you can email us at paranormalsph@gmail.com and we can schedule a conversation. If you want to share your story through text, think about sharing it on the Discord server. We have chat rooms that accommodate different experiences and beliefs. The Paranormal Podcast is engineered and produced by F90 Productions. If you have the time, please rate and review our show on whatever platform you follow. All these little things go a long way in helping us keep this podcast sustainable. If you enjoyed an episode and you want to tell us about it, go ahead, please give us a message, email us, and it gives us the energy to keep this show going. Thank you for listening. We appreciate all of you who support and listen to the podcast. Stay safe. Ayan, pwede na tayo mag-Tagalog. Kamusta mga LL, aka Latak listeners? Andiyan pa ba kayo? Kamusta na? Medyo busy lang this month, kaya halos once a week muna ang release ng episodes. May episode additional ako this November 25. I-edit ko pa lang. So, yun. Sometimes, pag may oras, may pagdagdag akong extra episodes. Medyo nakakapagod talaga yung October kasi madaming ganap, may podcast, may live, ang daming gimmick. So, lay low muna talaga this November. Recharge. Salamat at umabot kayo sa latak portion ng podcast. Paramdam na lang kayo sa Discord kung parte kayo ng tropang LL.